Hello and welcome to today's live stream. My name is Paul Tobey from jazzmental.com. Thank you for joining me for another one of these Saturday morning live streams, which are getting quite regular. And if you're here for the first time, it's nice to see you. For those of you that are coming back to spend some more time with me, as you know, I super appreciate that. Just a quick hello to a few people. Thomas, an internet privacy advocate, and Riho, good to see you again. Philip Johnson from Urbana again, nice. Claudio from Buenos Aires, Maurizio from Italy, and we've got Diane from Kelowna in Canada, Peter from Evanston, Bernie from MSP. MSP, not sure. I should be able to figure that out. Curtis, nice to see you. Alan from New Mexico. And for those of you whose names I didn't mention, welcome to you anyway. Just a quick note before we get going. We have had some internet challenges here this morning. I'm going to share something with you before I get started. And that is this, which is here. Is that the right one? Yeah, so we're seeing customers experiencing poor or loss of service within the Hamilton, and we're in the Niagara region. And this is due to, I'm just going to scroll down here, interestingly enough, vandalism to our fiber optic cables, which is affecting our services. So this has been happening all morning. The internet just recently came back, maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. I have no idea whether it's going to stick around, but I'm just letting you know, if you lose me for any reason, it's intermittent, and I will come back on in a few minutes when the internet gets restored. That's if and when that happens. So I'm just warning you of that right off the bat. So I'm going to put a sheet music link in the download chat area. Let me grab the link first, which is here, list of codes, and copy link. All right, so download link in the chat area now. Let me put a notice to that. So sheet music link posted in the chat area under Jazz Mental. Just go there. That's your free sheet music for today. Now, I totally get that some people may have already downloaded the Nearness of You because I did a small tutorial on this earlier in the week. If you did download it and you got a coupon code and you paid for it, go and download it anyway, and I'm going to send you a link to get the free backing track. So if you've already, one more time, if you've already downloaded it and you're thinking, I don't need to download it again, please go and download it using that link. That's a different link than the one you got earlier in the week. Go and download it, and then when you do that, I'm going to send you a special email just for you, okay? For the rest of you, just go and grab the sheet music. It's absolutely free to download. The way we get started in these things is I play a little bit of what we're talking about today. And our topic for today is focused on improvisation, and we're more focused on sort of like the jazz ballad idea. It's a freedom of expression that I think a lot of us really need to learn more about. How do you play when the tempo is slow? And how do you think up phrasing, and what does it feel like to play at that speed? So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to play it solo piano first, and I'm going to use the sheet music that you're going to download. Remember, the link is in the download area. And then I'm going to use a backing track the second time through, just to give you an opportunity to listen with your ears the difference between the two. And I want to discuss this when I'm done playing, because I think it's important to distinguish between what we would play solo piano just by ourselves and what we would play with a bass and drums. There is going to be a click track countdown to start me in, so please ignore that. It's just to kind of tell me where I am in the tune when it starts. So hopefully there won't be too big a pause between when I'm done playing solo piano and when I'm starting to play with the backing track. All right, let's get going. And I just have to get my headphones ready to play when that happens, because I can't play the backing track without the headphones, but I'm not going to use them to play the solo piano part. So just getting them ready. Here we go. Okay. Now, it's a little difficult, as you can imagine, to transition from solo piano, get the tech correct, play the backing track, make it go through this whole live stream thing. And so there was a space in between the two, and it takes me a minute in my sort of, and somebody mentioned artistry. Yeah, it takes a little bit of getting into. But what I wanted to ask you is if you notice the difference between the solo piano version and the version with the backing track. So just throw out some ideas in the chat area. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. I do, and I will let you know what I think is the difference, but as we're doing this, I kind of wanted to hear your take on it. One more time, if you didn't get the sheet music link, it is in the chat area a little bit earlier. So you can scroll up the chat maybe and check that out. I'm going to pull up the sheet music while I explain a little bit about the approach here. So let me do that. So Nancy just posted the sheet music link again, and I'm basically showing it on the screen here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit just so you can see the first chord changes. Okay. I'm not going to go through the sheet music in detail. I hope you enjoy it. Please take the time to actually go through it, learn the chords, because there's some interesting things. For example, right off the bat, you've got drop two voicings. And then instead of starting on one, like it typically goes to one, but instead we're going to flat 5. So instead of doing this, well, that's what we're doing. Instead of this, which is what most people would do, start on flat 4 or flat 5. Okay. So the differences for me between the two are basically this. And here's a couple of comments, so let me read them. So Alan says, I think you were groping a little when you started the backing track before you started playing more intuitively again. Yeah. Thank you. Good point, and that's true. That's exactly what happened. It's like I'm trying to find my way, listen to the bass player, making sure I'm catching the changes right. So it did take a few minutes to get into it. IPA says, with track, it's more oriented towards right-hand melody with more sparse harmonic input from the left hand. That's true, and I do want to talk about that. And another comment, aloha, nice music to wake up to. Which version did you base this on? Whose version? I didn't actually base this on anybody's version, NoHo. I basically played it and transcribed it the way that I played it. So it's not based on any specific other piano player's version. So you're getting, if you download it, a completely original idea. So let's talk about a couple of these ideas. So the first one is when you're playing, and I'm going to compare the two. When you're playing solo piano, you have freedom of time. And it's a different freedom of time, meaning the time for each bar, it can vary. For example, from the beginning, and you can really stretch this out. And then and you're speeding up, slowing down. So it's kind of like this rubato effect. So the playing with the time when you're solo piano is very different than playing with time when you're playing with a trio. So for example, if we're playing with trio, the time is here. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. 1, 2. Time is set. The time going there, and the left hand is typically playing this sort of stride idea. So for example, that. So you're keeping the time going. But the interesting thing is that the right hand is playing syncopated ideas. Syncopation meaning not on the beat, and you're using a combination of triplets, 16th notes, 8th notes, or whatever, but you're playing them slightly away from the beat. So if I were to play it in time, so listen to the difference here. I'm going to play it in time with, actually, let's use the backing track for this. We're going to play it in time with the backing track, and I'm going to play it as written, and then I'm going to change it to play with the time. So check this out. I want you to hear this. So let's play in time. Now let's play it out of time. that? So basically what I'm doing is I'm using my artistic expression to play around the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. The left hand is keeping time. So basically what you're trying to do is play with the time, because you've got the bass and drums there in the background doing their thing, and you don't need to keep time. And the more you play out of time with the bass and drums, the better it sounds. So that's the first big difference between the two. The other big difference is the left hand, when you're playing with bass and drums, is not doing this. It's not keeping time. It's just kind of playing sparse, rootless voicings for the most part. Let's go back here. Look at the left hand. It's not doing much. So I really want you to try that when you download the backing track. I'm going to give you a link to go grab the backing track before the end of this session. So stick around for that. Let's take a look at the bridge, because I wanted to talk about just kind of like a soloing concept when you get into that. So the bridge starts at B. So I can only show you like 3 bars of it, but there's an introduction to the bridge, like this, not intro, but pickup. And I really wanted to just kind of talk about those chords for a second, because when you do download the sheet music, you're probably thinking, where did the heck did those come from? But in order to do that, I'm going to have to display this screen. And let's talk about this. So first of all, you've got drop 2 voicings here. This is a drop 2 voicing. And this is 6 diminished scale. So where you're going up the scale, every other chord is a diminished chord. Then you've got another drop 2 voicing here. Actually, this is also drop 2, but it's pulled from the 6 diminished scale. And then finally, you've got a tritone substitution before the G minor 7. So instead of D7 going to G minor, you're putting in this lovely A7 sharp 11 chord, A flat 7, right? So here's your A flat 7 chord. And then the sharp 11 is right on top. Isn't that a lovely chord? So it sounds like this. Yeah, sorry. And then you've got an inner voice. For those of you that want to know more about inner voices, check out the tutorial that we talked about earlier this week, which is basically several types and reasons to use inner voices. In this particular case, the inner voice is basically playing a melody. It is connecting two chords as well, except it's connecting to the 3 of C. So for example, right here, you'll notice that we're eventually getting to the C. So think of this as like destination, and all of these notes here are getting you to that destination. This one and this one, both E naturals. So check it out. Okay, that's what I really like and wanted to point out about this bridge, is that you've got a combination of lovely voicings and inner voices. Don't just brush over that when you download the sheet music. Don't just go, oh, it's going to take me a while to learn that and figure out those voicings. Yes, but don't just do things like this. That's what everybody does. And then they play another chord. I mean, it's just boring when you do stuff like that. And you have so much space to fill when you're playing at 60 beats per minute. So take your time with it. Look at that left hand doing that. So I'm staggering it. So if I played it as written, it's that. But if I stagger the notes and play it more rubato, so the left hand is trading shots with the right hand, not shots, trading notes with the right hand. Okay? Really cool stuff. And you can play with the time more even when you're playing with the trio. Like, you really want to syncopate those types of things. All right, let's continue on down a little bit. I really like this B7 sharp 11 chord here. So we're down here. So the bridge is like... then you get this B7 sharp 11. Check that out. Inner voices. Lovely D7 altered chord. And this is the next part I wanted you to check out. I'm going to have to take a screenshot in order to write on the screen, but you'll see it in just a second. I wanted to show you this. Check this note out right there. That is a D flat, or you can also think of it like a C sharp. It doesn't really matter. But what matters is that this is a G7 chord. From the root up, root, 7th, 3rd, 5th root. Watch what happens if I just take this 5th note and I start it here. Now, why does that just sound amazing? By itself, not so much, but check out before that. So you've got this sort of inner voice happening where it's resolving to the 5th and then going to the 3rd of C. Okay. Really interesting stuff. I really hope you enjoy this sheet music. It did take me a while to transcribe my own playing, but I pretty much transcribed it note for note. So I think it's worth learning. Just reading a couple of the comments in the chat area. Ira says, inner voice opportunities are such a beautiful complement to the right-hand melody, especially, Ira, when you've got space to put them. For example, I mean, most people would just hang out on a G minor or maybe play some inversions of G minor, but if you got this inner voice, it just creates this lovely sort of connection between chords, little inner melodies. Really cool stuff. Jamie has to retire. We'll see you next time. All right. Now what I want to do, now that we've kind of covered some of the major ideas of this sheet music, I want to cover playing with the backing track a little bit more. So let me throw up the sheet music one more time. I hear Nancy coming toward me. There's not a problem with the internet. Nancy? Mm-hmm. Is there a problem?
No, I just wanted to remind you what came in today or yesterday.
Oh, thank you. So Nancy interrupted me for a public service announcement. Look what came in this week. This is my new CD. Oh my goodness, we've been waiting a couple of weeks since we sent in the files and everything to produce this. This is a long time coming. This is my first CD since 2001. So a long time. We had to make this, by the way, because I'm getting back out there to perform concerts and things, and the promoters needed it. So that's why we made a CD. But there you go. It's nice to get it. Let me read you the tunes that are on here. So we've got Over the Rainbow, Caminar, which is an original song of mine that I wrote while walking the Camino de Santiago. Then Take 5. Then A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes, which is just a beautiful tune from Disney. Then My Foolish Heart. Then Nancy with the Laughing Face. A lot of piano players don't play that tune, but I think it's just an absolutely wonderful tune. And then there's two versions of You Don't Know What Love Is. There's a radio edit in which I play in swing, and then there's a longer version, which is like 7 or 8 minutes, on You Don't Know What Love Is. So really cool stuff. I'm really happy to produce this. I know that many of you downloaded the MP3s from last week. Thank you so much for investing in that. And for those of you that wrote me to give me your feedback about the album, I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right. And Alan says congratulations. Alan also said, in the improv, which I hope you'll get to, I have a specific question. What guidelines are there for the grace notes played over chords that slide from, say, a black note to a whole note, a black note to a white note? So let me digest that question for a second. What guidelines are there for the grace notes played over chords that slide? So Alan, in response to your question, when I use grace notes in my playing, I'll show you a couple of ideas on how to use them. So I wanted to pull up the sheet music just for a second, if I can go and find it. So let's assume that we're thinking in terms of covering all of the chords. Where does that grace note come from? So let's do a little bit of soloing just from the top. So there's a grace note that I used right off the bat. So there's two types of grace notes. The first one is the type that you can use to accentuate the melody note by using the scale from below. So if our first note is this, an A natural, I'm hitting it with the G. And then this next one is blues. So you've got blues scale, and you're sliding from the flat 3 to the natural 3. So that's an obvious one. Flat 3 to natural 3. So there's two types you can use. First one, using the scale, and then right after that, you're using the blues scale, sliding from flat 3 to 3. Let's keep going. And that one is flat 3 to 3 of F7. B flat, second line. This one, we're doing grace notes from 2 below. It's using the blues scale, but it's also using a half step before that. And that's just a riff. So that's a riff on B flat, blues scale. So I'm hitting the 7th and then coming down the scale, blues scale. Okay, one more time. Now that one is a half step below using the diminished scale. So I've got whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. So I'm just sliding in using the diminished scale on the B flat diminished 7th. We've got a turnaround. So this is where I might use grace notes. So A minor to D7 to G minor 7 to C7. So let's do that. Let's find some grace notes. So that is an A minor blues scale. Blues. So Alejandro, congrats on the album. Thank you. Is it on iTunes? Yes. June 28th, it will appear on iTunes. The special thing about iTunes, if you have the technology, either the headphones or surround sound, it's going to be available on Dolby Atmos. It's one of the very few jazz albums that's actually available in full surround sound. And I know it's just a piano, and I know it's solo piano, but you should hear this Dolby Atmos production. It's unbelievable. You will absolutely love it. You're going to need some good headphones in order to hear it, or obviously some kind of Atmos surround sound system, but it's made for spatial audio and Dolby Atmos. So yeah, iTunes is where you're going to get it. June 28th. That's the official launch date. These CDs are not officially, the CDs are ready, but the actual launch date is June the 28th. Okay. Hope that answers your question. And Marla says, loving this bluesy version of this song. Yeah. So when you're playing blues, when you're playing ballads like this, it's always good to incorporate some bluesy ideas. Not the whole thing. I mean, if you just played blues, it wouldn't sound right, but bluesy ideas is good. C minor to F7. To B flat. To E flat 7. A minor. Let's put the headphones back on, play the backing track, and do a little bit more. People really seem to relate to the blues, so I'm going to try to incorporate a lot more blues, even with the bass and drums. So let's see how that goes. What happens if we do this? Back a little bit further. The piano was a little hot there, so I just turned it down. So I get that it might not seem obvious to be doing things like that, but all of that solo, what I tried to do was pay very specific and close attention to blues. Now, it's not just one blues scale that you would use for this, it's blues of the key of the moment. So for example, if I'm doing this, the key of the moment in this particular case is F, even though it's a B diminished seventh chord, it's still F. So use an F blues. Watch what happens when we use F blues. Now we're going to B flat, but you can use C minor blues temporarily. C minor blues or F blues to B flat blues. Actually, B flat blues doesn't really work there because you've got a flat 3. So really you want to accentuate the third of the chord. So it's sort of a half blues scale. But it is when you get to E flat. Use B flat blues there. Okay? One more time. it's definitely a style of playing. I'm not sure that I would be doing that all the time, but if you throw it in sporadically, then it definitely works really well. Any rules or guidelines to bear in mind in choosing which blues scale to riff on? That's what we were just talking about. Key of the moment. That's the blues scale you want to use. So there's two, really. If you think of a 2-5, C minor 7 to F7, going to B flat. Okay, so C minor 7 to F7 to B flat major 7. Okay. There's really two or three blues scales that you could use there. B flat blues will work over the whole thing. So B flat blues. But each chord or the key of the moment has its own blues scale. So C minor, I would, because it's a 2-5, I would in this case not use the C minor blues scale, but I would use F blues. Okay? So just stick to the key of the moment and you can't really go wrong. In a 2-5, you can use the F blues scale. So C minor 7 to F7, you can use F blues scale or B flat blues scale. And temporarily, if you wanted to use C minor, you could as well. Well, that's a little out. It's best to use F7. And then to B flat. Try to remember that the most important part of blues scale is the third and the third and the flat 3 and the 7th. So 7th to flat 3 to the 3rd. Okay? You heard that before. Get the idea, right? So entertainer, blues scale. Okay. Martha asks, do you recommend picking one blues scale and just sticking with it? It's kind of what we've been talking about. I'm thinking if you mean one blues scale, like there's only one blues scale. The question is, which blues scale do you use as you're going through different changes? You cannot use just a B flat blues scale on this entire tune because it goes through too many different changes for that to work. So it would sound something like this. There's not enough chord flavor in there to make a B flat blues scale work. So you need to change the blues scale as you're going through each of the chords. I trust that answers that question. We've really, I think, reached our limit on what we can talk about when you're playing blues scales in a straight ahead ballad like this. So Marla follows up with one key. Yeah, like I said, Marla, I think you really want to hit the right blues scale for the right chord progression. You can't just use one blues scale over this entire thing. If you were playing blues, yeah, I mean, if we're just doing B flat blues. that's when you can use one blues scale. But when you're playing over a ballad like this, it's really more effective if you use the blues scale sporadically and different blues scales, okay? Diane asks, when do you use major or minor blues? You know, I don't actually distinguish between a major blues scale and a minor blues scale. They're both the same. There's only one blues scale. You're basically talking about when you, so this is a major blues scale. This is a minor blues scale. Those are the same. But a major blues is a different type of blues. So this is a major blues. 1. It's a major blues. What you're talking about is like a minor blues, which starts on a minor chord. So let's take G minor. So those has different changes. They're using minor chords instead of major chords. So a major blues sounds a lot brighter versus a minor blues. Famous minor blues tunes, you know, Mr. PC. I'm trying to think of tunes off the top of my head, but you know, Spider-Man. C minor. And then it's minor 7 flat 5 to 5 7. And then the turnaround is different. It goes to flat 6 instead of 6. I like the bridge on that tune, by the way. Summertime isn't a blues, but it's got a blues feel. A blues is 12 bars. Summertime is not 12 bars. I don't think. No, it's not 12. I'm not taking requests, Robert. Could you play your version of Blues in the Night? Yeah, we did that. Actually, you know what? If you want to hear that, just check out last week's live stream, because we dedicated the entire live stream from last Saturday on Blues in the Night. So I don't know. I'm just trying to make points here, but basically I appreciate the requests. Thank you. Let's go back and throw the backing track on. And when I hit an idea for the art of improvisation, which really we've been discussing this entire live stream is how do you approach live stream from an artistic perspective? That's really what I intended to do today, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it. I want to reach a little bit deeper on this tune just to kind of see what else or what other ideas I can leave you with. So let's just play a little bit with the backing track. I'm going to wind it back to here. There's something I want to talk about. What I want to talk about there is what we did was we were moving into, and I was about to play in what we call halftime swing. So the free-flowing form of a ballad like this is that sort of slow-paced bass that does this. Was about to do was play in time, and typically the bass and the drums would pick up on that like this. And the bass would kind of pick up a little bit but still not play swing. Like the bass, if we were playing swing, they would do this. And you don't want that. What you want is kind of like a halftime feel where the bass is playing half notes instead of quarter notes, but keeping like a swing feel. The bass is still doing this. But I'm swinging with the right hand, right? So, Alan, you do not need any special software to play the backing track. Let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to throw up, you should have all received an email by now. If you didn't, then you haven't downloaded the sheet music yet. But I'm going to give you a link, which is this. And so this is kind of like today's offer. If you've already purchased the sheet music, I sent you the backing track for free. But if you didn't purchase the sheet music earlier this week, I'm sending you a link to download the backing track right there. So there's the link to the backing track. Sorry for shouting. Cap locks. Where's cap locks on here? So take cap locks off. There's a link to the backing track. Let me give you a coupon code, which if you downloaded the sheet music, you already got it. And let me put that in there. So there's your coupon code. So that coupon code will give you 40%. So it's going to be like $6. So I think it's totally worth it. The reason why 40% OG. And Nancy says backing track, not baking. Actually, baking track sounds good, right? 40% off, for $6. And it's just to help support the channel. We really appreciate you doing that. It's a lot of work to put this stuff together. I can tell you I spent hours recording that backing track. And I think $6 is totally worth it. Go grab it, and you're supporting the channel. So I appreciate that. Thank you for correcting all my mistakes, Nancy. I totally appreciate it. And I'm going to keep playing here, and we're already past our time a bit. One more thing I want to ask you. If you're still here by the time I'm done playing, which is just going to be a few minutes from now, I'm going to play us out. I hope you had a good time. When this thing is done, make a comment below the video. I know you can't do that now when the live stream is running, but as the video ends, make a comment below the video. And one more thing, go to Instagram and follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to build up a little bit of an audience on Instagram. So it's instagram.com/Paul Tobey. Just look up Paul Tobey on Instagram and you'll find it. We just really started posting there recently. Somebody said it was a good idea to do this, so if you want to follow me, we're going to do some extra things on Instagram that you won't get anywhere else. And you do not need any special software to play the backing track. It's just an MP3 file. All right, let's keep playing. All right, thanks everyone. We went a little bit past our time today, but you're totally worth it. And to everyone who joined me today, if you're still here, thanks for hanging out. And we will see you next Saturday, same time, same place. Don't forget to make a comment below this video when the broadcast ends, which is right now. And also follow me on Instagram. Talk to you soon.